Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the regular Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Karspeck.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy.
Here.
Trustee Hardy.
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht.
Here.
Trustee Ayers.
Here.
Trustee Kurtz.
Present.
Trustee Wing will be absent this evening.
All right, thank you, Clerk. Next on our agenda is citizen participation. This is a chance for folks in the audience to speak to anything that is not on tonight's agenda. I'll open up everything I'll open up everything to public participation. We have no one signed up. Does anyone wish to speak to something that is not on tonight's agenda? All right. Now we can move on to our regular agenda tonight. We'll start off with consent. Would trustees like anything removed from consent? Otherwise, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Kurtz has moved on the consent. Trustee Hardy has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Hardy.
Yes.
Trustee Ayers.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht.
Yes.
Trustee Kurtz.
Yes.
Mayor Karspeck.
Yes. Okay, next on our agenda is the Larimer County Mental Health Awareness Month proclamation. I believe mental health is May is National Mental Health Awareness Month. Larimer County take a pretty prominent role, I'd say even in the nation with this, passing a behavioral health sales tax and just opening up their Longview campus only 2 years ago to help folks with mental health crisis bridge that gap and be able to get some form of relief. I am fortunate enough to be on the Behavioral Health Policy Council to help direct those funds. The other part of that money not only goes to Longview, but is distributed out to nonprofits involved in mental health throughout the county. Berthoud does not apply for any of those roles yet, but that's only because we don't really have any Berthoud-specific mental health nonprofits. Of course, this will shortly change when we have the House and Neighborly Service with the facility present in Berthoud. Then we'll have Summit Stone in Berthoud, and so we might be able to get some of those grants here. But I wanted to put that on the agenda tonight just to acknowledge mental health awareness. Just by chance, do we have anyone from the county in tonight to speak to this? Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and read this. Whereas mental health illnesses are common in the United States and across the world, they do not discriminate based on one's age, income, education, religion, race, or place of residence. And mental health illnesses are prevalent among adults, 23.1% of the U.S. adult population, young adults, 36.2% of people ages 18 to 25 in the U.S., and adolescents, 49.5% of people ages 13 to 18 in the United States. Tens of thousands of Larimer County residents have reported poor mental health and an inability to access needed behavioral health care in past community surveys. And barriers to behavioral health care in Larimer County are identified as the cost of care, timely access to providers in our community, stigma around seeking help, transportation issues, and a lack of insurance coverage for services, and access to necessary medication, appropriate treatment, care coordination, and responsive peer support help prevent individuals from populating emergency rooms and jails, which are often the default locations for people with acute mental health and substance use needs. And we envision that Larimer County becomes a community where people are empowered and supported in accessing a full range of behavioral health services that promote well-being for all. And in recent years, Larimer County saw declines in the rates of suicide and overdoses. And these numbers represent people, and every person's life matters. This is cause for celebration, but also a reminder that success in the work is qualitative and quantitative. And now, therefore, I, William Karspeck, Mayor of the Town of Berthoud, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, do hereby proclaim May as Mental Health Awareness Month in the Town of Berthoud, recognizing that mental health is a fundamental component of overall well-being and is essential to living a healthy and productive life, full of joy, dignity, and purpose. Given under my hand in these free United States and the Town of Berthoud on this 13th day of May 2025, and to which I have caused the seal of the Town of Berthoud to be affixed and have made this proclamation public. I'll go ahead and sign that real quick. And though we don't have anyone in the audience for this, let's go ahead and just do a round of applause for all of us I only say in the nation because we do have folks from other communities in counties outside of the state of Colorado coming touring Longview, just because it's pretty ahead of its time what we're doing over there. Something we should be proud of. All right, we do have Community Fund Foundation members here in the audience tonight. If you could please come to the front. And I know we had some, trustees, we have some swag out for you here. This is a big year for the Community Fund of Northern. You know what? Do you mind if I just turn it over to you guys to just briefly acknowledge what the Community Fund does?
Yes,
Thank you. Yeah, under there would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. My name is Kristen Todd. I serve as the president and CEO of the NOCO Foundation, formerly the Community Foundation of Northern Colorado, but that's a mouthful, so we've shortened our name to NOCO Foundation.
I apologize for that. I'm sorry.
No,
I
that's
should know
okay.
that.
That is
Yes.
okay. It's just easier to say. It's easier to roll off the tongue. My colleagues Zoe and Claire, and we're celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. And so we've been part of the community for 50 years. And throughout that time, we have made investments in Northern Colorado of more than $150 million to all types of projects, to nonprofits that are focused on mental health, that are focused on youth, that are focused on environment, you name it. We also work in the convening space and bring people together, and many of you have been part of that. So we're really excited about our history and about the partnership that we have had with Berthoud for more than 32 years. And have invested nearly 800 million, not 800 million, sorry.
That'd be awesome.
One day it will be 800 million, $800,000 into Berthoud. And so looking forward to continuing that trend. Our board, in fact, has issued a $50,000 match grant to each of the communities that house community funds. And so, so we will look forward when we can put some money into the Berthoud coffer and make that match and put more money out into the Berthoud community. But part of our celebration and our 50th is something called the NOCO Pledge, and that's what I placed before you. And this is simply an effort to get people engaged throughout Northern Colorado to take the NOCO Pledge, which means I pledge to care about the future of Northern Colorado, and I will do my part. And that part can look like a lot of different things, simply pledging to make a grant to a nonprofit or talk to your friends and family about a cause that's important to you, something that takes action to make Northern Colorado a better place. We hope it'll be a fun viral campaign, but the QR code is on the flyer. You can do it with your cell phone. You take a selfie, you put in your why, your statement of why Northern Colorado is important to you, and then you get to wear the button or the sticker that I also put at your place. So hope you'll take advantage of that. We've got hundreds of people that have already taken the pledge, and over the next 6 months during our celebration, we hope to reach thousands and would love to see all of your faces as part of our pledge wall.
Thank you.
So thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for all coming. If I could just briefly say, just being on the recipient Berthoud Community Fund of all this, you guys do such a fantastic job. It's just the incredible organization of working with each individual community in Larimer County, all the stipulations involved in each fund, and being able to not only pull that off and make it look seamless every single year. So though I'm not a recipient nonprofit, I'm sure they're very, very thankful for what you guys do. And you just make the Berthoud Community Fund look great because we're the ones handing out the money, but all the hard work behind the scenes is really because of you guys. So thank you. And congratulations on the 50th, and what an excellent celebration at the Lincoln Center over the weekend. So everything involved with Community Fund, I'm happy to participate in, and it's extremely well ran. So thank you.
You bet.
Trustees, have any questions before I read this or comments? I'll say, Berthoud Community Fund, one, we're looking for members, and I'm happy if there's a conflict. I don't think there is having multiple members, but I'm happy to step down if you guys, anyone wants to get on that board. There's a term limit. I might be coming up anyways, but great experience. And Berthoud's unique in that, at least in the last year, we had a problem where we didn't have as many applicants as we did money. So we were able to kind of bank some money, but whereas the other communities have more need than they do money, we're kind of encouraging nonprofits that weren't actually even applying. So hopefully that'll change. I think it will shortly. But also, I don't believe we have any stipulations on the money like other nonprofits.
You
So
have far fewer.
far fewer. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. All right, thanks. But awesome organization. Thank you. I'll go ahead and read the proclamation here for the 50th. This is for the Year of Philanthropy 2025. Whereas in 1975, a group of dedicated community leaders in Fort Collins saw the need to establish a community foundation to receive gifts and make impactful grants to improve arts and cultural offerings and people's experience in the growing community. And in 1993, Berthoud joined other Northern Colorado communities to enrich their nonprofit sector and quality of life for its residents as the Berthoud Community Fund. And over the years, the Berthoud Community Fund has contributed $780,000 through more than 300 grants to support the nonprofit sector serving its residents and natural environment. And the NOCO Foundation is celebrating its 50th anniversary in 2025 and is recognizing the thoughtful generosity and long-term investments in the communities where it serves, such as Berthoud. And whereas community philanthropy, large and small, makes a difference today and for the next generations. And now therefore I, William Karspek, Mayor of the town of Berthoud, do hereby proclaim 2025 as a year of philanthropy for the Northern Colorado NOCO Foundation in the town of Berthoud, given under my hand in these free United States and the town of Berthoud on the 13th day of May 2025, and to which I have caused the seal of the town of Berthoud to be affixed and have made this proclamation public. Go ahead and sign this one as well. If we give a round of applause to them. I want to keep making plugs here, but I'm not trying to.
Debbie Davis also serves on the Berthoud committee, so.
You do? Yeah, Debbie, of course, yeah. Not that I forgot you, I just forgot you're in the back, I'm sorry, but yeah, Debbie's essentially running it.
Committee, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you want to hold this?
I would love to.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Come on in, Zoe. Sorry, delaying your agenda.
Yeah. That's what it's for. Pictures of me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much. Thanks
Yeah,
so much.
thank you. Thank you all so much. We will display this proudly.
All right. Okay, number 4 on the agenda is the outdoor pool concept update. We have our Deputy Town Administrator, Jeremy Olinger, here to present on this. Thank you, Jeremy.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the trustees. Tonight's item is a pool concept update. If you can recall, back in April, we went to the port with a design that we'd come up with working with our BRS consultants. We took it to those. We got some feedback at the port meeting, lots of great feedback, lots of work on it. Brought it to a town board meeting in April, got some additional feedback, went back, made those changes, talked about a lot of that input, talked about a lot of feedback, made those changes, made another concept effort, brought it back to the port in the May meeting just a couple weeks ago. I'm sorry. And they went over and decided that we did a fairly good job of hearing and listening to what they wanted and what they decided. Lots of good things. The main things that kind of, as you'll see, the 3 main things I just want to kind of, for their perspective, that kind of rose to the top that were major ones that I felt were something to be discussed tonight or just to be known was they wanted just to build an outdoor pool only, a dedicated, separate kiddie pool, and then an 8-lane lap pool, or 8 lanes in the lap pool. So as we look at tonight, just keep that in mind. That was kind of their main weighted, and Carl can help me reinforce that. So there's just 2 slides tonight, one from overhead, kind of what was taken from that feedback. It became 2 different bodies of water, as you'll see. Again, this is conceptual design concept from the top down, showing what it would look like with the entire facility. And then we just have one tonight, kind of a bird's eye look down. You'll see the 2 different bodies of water, south of the recreation center, the open lawns, some shade. Now, there's not a lot of detail to this. It's still conceptual. It is to like a 10% level. The consultant teams have invested a lot of work in pipe sizing, pipe distances, square footages, things like that you won't see. But for tonight, what we're asking, just for some clarity before we get a discussion, is we're just asking if we want to further the effort with the design team and more of a professional proposal for, as you guys understand, the design process to work through the DDs and to get it to a bid level document so we can go out to bid is what the final direction is what we're asking. It may change after tonight, but I just wanted to clear that up before we got into it a little bit. But anyway, I guess that's what I have tonight, is just your picture, and I know there's some discussion that wants to be had, so I'd like to just get into that, so.
Well, thank you for all the hard work on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, not easy translating all the different desires of two different boards, so. Trustees, I'll just start off with Mayor Pro Tem. I think you do have some comments, so we can start with you.
Yeah, that's no problem. I shared most of my comments via email, but my thoughts overall is I feel like this design is very close. Some of the areas I thought, that deserved some more exploration included kind of that central area, having some more shade over that. My significant concern is having enough shade for kind of the kiddie pool, especially on the south side. With kind of the southern exposure, I think that just needs to generally be considered with kind of all the shading structures, and whether you guys need to do a solar study or not, I think that's what we need to think about. Taking a look at kind of the west side, we've got that pool deck shading. I guess I felt it would be a cost-saving measure, but also a benefit to add some more green space and some trees over there, and also to kind of open it up for kind of mountain views. Let's see, what else? Had the thought of an exploration on like an infinity pool design on like the west end of the kiddie pool. I thought that would be a nice touch, so you're kind of looking out at the mountains, or at least exploring it. And then, let's see. I guess overall the big comments that I would make would be from an aesthetic standpoint, we should draw really from the rec center, in my opinion. I think the entry element, that's all white with the gray roof, I think we want to bring white over into this area. My kind of vibes for this would be having the accessory structures using the same materials, but kind of echoing kind of some of the accessory farm structures you might see around here and stuff, smaller chicken coops and sheds and that kind of stuff. So simplified, but kind of echoing those ideas, but anything to add green space and keep it cool, I think would be really helpful. But I feel like this design, in my opinion, is probably 90% there, at least from an overall perspective. So great job. That's all I've got.
Other comments or questions,
Yeah, my concerns
suggestions?
or suggestions would be more shade.
Okay,
Yes.
like Trustee or Mayor Pro Tem?
Like Bertan was talking about, even if it's like even kind of like our playground equipment where we have something like that, but it's a fake tree that provides some shade that's not gonna blow over when we do get our high winds. So we don't have to take it down or whatever, if we can create some sort of additional shade. Growing up here in Berthoud and being very fair-skinned and sunburned easily, I just see myself coming out of here in about 30 minutes of looking like a red lobster. So, but that's what sunscreen's for too. Some weird German doctor that I used to have back as a kid. But yeah, more shade's always good. So just something, because we don't have the established trees there yet like we did at the Old Town Park. And that provided all the shade down there for the most part with those old trees. And then of course the elephant in the room is everyone's like pressuring for indoor capabilities. And then the swim team was also a big voice in this whole getting the lane lap pools built. And we're building an outdoor pool that will suffice their needs as a swim team, but it'll be closed during the time that they could be using it. Unless they're just planning on wanting to use it for off-season training, then it's perfect. But we're gonna have another outdoor pool pretty soon up north. So I'd still like to somehow figure out a way if there's like, how long are we gonna operate this pool, this outdoor pool? Is it still gonna be just 3 months out of the year, 4 months?
Yeah, close to
Short
4
season.
probably. We hope to push 4, but typically 3.5. is the standard
It just seems really short, short season for
outdoor
a
pool.
bigger
Yep.
pool, so it'd be kind of nice to be able to get more use out of it somehow. Even if it is just with like one of those temporary retractable type building structures, but I know that adds to the cost considerably, but, yeah, just want to plug the indoor capabilities somehow, some sort, just to appease those lap swimmers that really want the year-round lap swimming.
So I just want to further impress upon that. We had, I think they're probably watching, but 2 generations of Heinmans very active on, could we speak to this removable structure? I was trying to get Mr. Heinman Senior to kind of describe it a little more. I've never heard of this, but a structure, it sounded like with a tin roof, but removable walls. I just didn't quite get it, but you guys have a better handle than I did.
I think there's a couple different options. There are not a lot of good examples of kind of fully retractable indoor pool structures. You know, typically you get basically a building that has either roll-up doors, very large roll-up doors, kind of like what we have now, only bigger.
So like garage doors?
Like big garage doors, yeah. So we have 2 garage doors in the existing aquatics facility indoors, and those open up in the summertime. But they're the size of like a standard, maybe a slightly larger than a single car garage. There's 2 of those. You can go in and out of the patio that way. So you could do that, but like with bigger doors where you could open up half a wall or more, or maybe you could open up a couple. But it would still, for all intents and purposes, it would be an indoor pool just with open side walls. There are retractable roof options. Those are not very common. You see those a lot in resort development, but there's very few public examples that we could find. We did some research, our architecture team did some research to see how many they could find that were that way. You know, municipally owned pools, that's an uncommon thing. And typically it's just a portion of the roof that opens. So, you know, it's a fairly significant cost for what is still effectively an indoor pool with maybe like a partially opened roof. And then you have the bubble option that could be fully removed, but that visually and frankly, the indoor quality is not real great in those either.
I saw one building that, they look kind of like the Sonico building in a way. That same kind of roof structure and sidewall, and it was basically looked like a greenhouse.
Yep.
And it was segmented in a way that it could retract into itself. So it was like, it was almost like a nesting doll sort of thing, with the walls and the roof nested into each other and then pushed back to one end, and then that became a permanent covered structure at one end of the building for like the bathhouse and stuff. And I thought that was a pretty cool concept of being able to have an outdoor pool that could open and contract, and it was the whole building that opened and contracted. It wasn't just the roof, it wasn't just the sides rolling up. It was just something.
That's an interesting concept I have not seen. So if
Yeah.
you can remember where that's at, it would be interesting
I'll try and
to.
find the video on it again and forward it, but I thought it was pretty
Depends on what
interesting
area.
how you could retract it back and.
States it is, and then you worry about in the wintertime, you know, insulating or utility bills and things like that. But it
Yeah, I
could
think
have been-
that's-
Could be a great idea in Florida or
Yeah,
a warmer climate. don't
'Cause
know
I
if
think that's the other-
applicable for
It's like a
Florida.
greenhouse building, so it would use a lot of solar, passive solar type
Sure.
heating, you know, it's on the south side, so it's gonna get plenty of sun. So we probably have to worry more about cooling it than about heating it, I would think.
and one of the big challenges with an indoor pool is just the air handling units that have to evacuate chloramines from the building, right? You have off-gassing from the pool chemicals, and those have to get taken out on an indoor facility. It used to be that was all done through, you know, ceiling-mounted vents, but that means you have to breathe it before all that stuff gets up there. Then it became the standard was vents, air evacuation vents close to the ground at the wall's edge, try to take some of that off the surface of the pool before it gets up. And now, like what we have in our indoor facility, the gutters of the pool actually serve as those evacuations. So the air that comes off the top of that pool goes right into those and out. The air handling units on the top of the rec center are huge. Like you could stand up and walk inside of them. They're like the size of a shipping container. And so anytime you go indoor, especially with something that would, you know, move like that, it might be a real challenge to do the air handling because you'd have to mount those units somewhere, and we don't have. If the whole building collapses, now you don't have roof space to put those. Now you got to figure out how to integrate those into the site. There's just all those unique challenges with an indoor.
The way it looked like it was on the
Facility.
end, where it all collapsed down to, it looks like it was all on the end. And then as it stretched out, it used collapsible or flexible tubing
Hmm.
to be the air handling units on the outside, so it all kind of collapsed down.
Yeah, it's a fascinating
So
idea.
instead of putting it on the roof, it was all on the side of the building, like a giant greenhouse.
Okay. Related, Mr. Hyman was saying 5 to 10 years for Richardson, and maybe got ahead of myself, but I just said I couldn't see Richardson getting developed in at least 5 years. 10 years, I don't know, I can't speak to that, but do we know the time frame for Richardson?
It really would be dependent on what the board was willing to finance, because we can't cash fund that park. And the board would either have to do a combination of, we may be able to issue certificates of participation for the aquatics facility. I haven't talked to the underwriter about that, but we couldn't do that, I don't think, for like the ball fields. Because the way those deals are structured, there has to be some asset value that kind of guarantees those. But if we combination cash funded and bond, or cash funded and COP, or all bond that the voters approved, I think we have the ongoing revenue stream in order to do something like that. But that's a big financing decision that.
Okay, so if Mr. Hyman, if you're watching, I apologize. Sounds like that is possible in 5 years. And that would have a lap lane?
Not in the current design, but it is something we could change.
'Cause I thought it was more like a kind of aquatic features and laser.
The current design is much more kind of resort water park style. So free-form pool, zero entry, but kind of free-form resort style pool, and then lazy rivers and big splash, climbing structure, slide structure kind of facility. But it did not include a lap pool as part of that.
So as the port liaison, I have to give weight to their recommendation because they've been pretty unanimous the entire time for an outdoor pool. But I would also be remiss without seconding the concerns about building an outdoor pool with the future Richardson as an outdoor pool as well, with the understanding that if we put 2 outdoor pools in this area, we are probably never going to have more indoor lap lanes unless we build another recreation facility, right? And the concern from the community, from Mr. Hyman, and any negatives about this design that I've heard have always been about the ability to use the lap lanes full-time because it's so limited space inside the rec center. So the conversations in the port committees and the presentations have been awesome, right? And they've been consistent about wanting this outdoor pool. However, I was also, I guess, concerned about the timeframe of Richardson, especially with the high cost of basically building all 3 phases at once, right? So I guess there are funding possibilities, and I guess a question that I would ask you guys to really bear down on in these conversations is, are we willing to put off an outdoor recreation pool for even 5 years, best case scenario, if all of the funding comes together, or what would you say, maybe 10 years if funding doesn't come together and Richardson would have to be phased because the pool is phase 3, right? Is that something that we are willing to do, since there is this sort of community push for an outdoor recreation pool? Obviously, there's 2 here with the needed lap lanes. And kind of in that vein, is that something, let me rephrase, sorry. I'm trying to think and talk at the same time, and sometimes my head hurts.
It's because you're so smart.
Sure. Is that the best future decision for the growing town of Berthoud, to have 2 outdoor pools and 3 indoor lap lanes, to get an outdoor pool now versus waiting for a few more years to have a full indoor slash partial indoor facility for the future. And then with the understanding that a recreation pool, because it's not just a kiddie pool at Richardson, it's a recreation pool, right?
Well,
It's,
I just gotta clarify that, cause I don't hear lanes on that.
there are spaces for lanes, but
Okay.
they're not, it's not a square pool.
Yeah.
I think
Kiddie
from the
pool,
design-
definitely the wrong terminology.
Yeah, it's a-
When I looked at it, I thought that's more family oriented than
Well,
actual
it is-
competitive.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is,
okay.
it is family oriented. I believe there is space for like 2 or 3 actual lanes, but it's not a square area. It's just, there is,
That's a good point.
straight.
competition size area that could be straight swimming. So I don't necessarily want to go against the port committee because their recommendations are obviously incredibly important. But something that I want us to discuss is the sort of long-term needs of the town in that we are growing and we are going to probably have more need for dedicated lap lanes. And as the town continues to grow, 3 indoor lap lanes are just going to get worse and worse as far as availability goes, right? So I don't necessarily have a comment, those are just, right, there's just
Dueling
things that I,
thoughts, yeah.
yeah, it's just, it's the problem that I'm having right now with my decisions and with my comments is this sort of unanimous conversation with the port for an outdoor pool that serves competition lap lanes, but also has a sort of family area, and people can obviously swim in the lap pool without competitions going on. But is this the best decision to make for the long term? Because the population of lap swimmers, this is not going to satisfy their needs, because if we build this outdoor lap lane pool, we're gonna have the same problems for 9 months out of the year that we have now, like literally the exact same problem, because everyone who swims laps is still going to be relegated to 3 lanes.
So that, and your maybe other thought is to cover one of these, so there is an extra 9 months, either at Richardson or here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we know without, is this 10%, just a ballpark idea of what this would cost, this pool project? Is it like 11 million, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or did I just make that up? I thought it was 11.
We do, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the short
Okay.
answer is, I think, our intention would be that this outdoor pool would be 8 million or less. I think our design team doesn't think that's realistic. I think a lot of that gets into, when we get the actual design, the finishes we choose, how much hardscape we choose versus landscaping, what the building finishes look like, the square footages. So much of that is dictated by design. So nobody really wants to give us a firm estimate today, because we're
Yeah.
probably a year away from construction minimum if we started today. And so who knows what that looks like, and then we haven't got far enough in design anybody. So all the cost estimates, I think, are much higher than what we could realistically get to. On the indoor pool side, we're probably looking between $15 and $18 million for a significantly sized competition pool indoors. And then, the original cost estimate on the Richardson Park Aquatic Center was probably in the 20 million range. But that was a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
so who knows what that looks like today, based
5
on
to 10.
construction cost escalation. Yeah, in 5 or 10 years, that could be $45 million for all I know.
So I guess my thoughts, I think we're all struggling with this, because makes sense that 9 months out of the year, there's no activity. If it was just a couple more, it's worth looking into, but a structure like that that's retractable, who knows, it could be more than just a couple million or a million, whatever.
If we were gonna build an indoor pool, Jeremy and I've had this conversation a few times. This is my personal opinion. I was not part of the port discussion, so take my opinion for what it's worth. It may not be relevant. I think if we're gonna build an indoor pool, we should build a purpose-built indoor pool. I think there's reason to do it. I would say do it right in that sense. The challenge, even when we laid out an indoor pool, because we actually took a couple of different concepts to the port committee to just say, look, we got a fully outdoor, we got an indoor, and then we got like a half indoor, half outdoor. The half indoor, half outdoor doesn't really make sense. It doesn't fit on the site. The indoor space gets so small, there's no deck space. If you're gonna try to have a swim meet, you wouldn't have any room for spectators. I mean, it just gets so shrunk down that it doesn't work. And so in a lot of ways, I feel like if we're gonna build an indoor pool, let's build a purpose-built indoor natatorium that's suitable for all indoor swimming kind of activities that are lap or competition-based. And I'm not saying like a Veterans Memorial Aquatics Center like in, is that Northridge? Not North Glen, I mean, or Thornton, I think it's Thornton. I mean, that's a 50-meter Olympic quality, huge concrete grandstands. I'm not saying that size, but certainly something where you could host, legitimate swim meets, where there's lots of deck space for spectators and participants. I think, again, if we're gonna build an indoor facility, let's build a real indoor facility. From my perspective, it's like you could do one thing really well, or you could do two things average. And if we're gonna do it with the intention of building an indoor facility, let's do it right.
Look, and if I just add 2 cents, it's less challenges that you see trying to add to an existing. You have a lot of challenges trying to add on to an existing in our space. That's probably an outdoor space because of the slide and how it connects to a building, because that building was designed and built not with the intentions of another building on top of it or connected to it. So not to say you can't do it, but there's a lot more challenges to fit that piece in correctly. And that's why maybe some of us, or myself, are struggling with how do we get an indoor-outdoor at this spot instead of just doing it new and doing it starting fresh with less challenges and less money probably in the end.
But I will say, I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say, I think, from my perspective too, I think what brought us to this point, if we take a step back 6 months, or maybe it's even more than that, time goes by so fast, but, we presented the port committee at the Richardson Park, kind of plan to the port committee, and when we said, hey, the outdoor pool is maybe 10 years away, it's phase 3, the reason why we kind of took a step back and said, whoa, maybe we need to do this is because there was a desire to have an outdoor pool sooner.
Right, I remember that.
And so that's what started this whole conversation was let's get an outdoor pool to replace what we lost in Town Park. And let's get that open to the community as soon as we can. And so that's why we started down this road. And then that transitioned into, well, wait a minute, we really need an indoor lap pool. And it's like, well, those two things are in conflict with each other, but let's try to explore and figure out the best way we could do that. But I think if we remember back, what started this whole process was we need an outdoor pool to replace Town Park. And so and I think that's what we've designed here. This is Town Park 2.0. It's slightly larger, and I think it's a little bit better in terms of amenity and water space. It's not quite as good because we don't have big mature trees and lots of lawn, but
Oh, the pool hands down is better.
But the
Oh.
pool, the pool itself is much better, right? And so I think we ended up where we started really with this design, for what it's worth.
Yeah. and
I'm not
sorry.
saying that's the right path forward, but that's kind of
I
what
just
brought
want
us.
to clarify real quick. I think this is fantastic. My personal opinion would be to go ahead. I agree with the push to have this. I wouldn't even call it an entry room. I think it's a small rec center. We're going to outgrow that space too, no doubt, with the bigger population. And yeah, we're probably going to outgrow this pool too. But I'm very supportive of this overall. I see a lot of value that 9 months out of the year we're not really going to have function here. But anyway, I overall I think you guys did fantastic.
I think this is great. I think based on seeing how many people use the splash park the minute it existed, the minute this opens, no matter what it looks like, people are gonna be there. And that's, I think the key is we live in a hot place that this is missing. If it opens in any capacity, like it's gonna be full. And that's exciting, that's what we want. And I'm just thinking to myself how wonderfully creative this board is. Like you guys are such problem solvers that we're trying to solve too many problems, I think, with one little footprint. And I think that's kind of where we're stumbling is we're trying to make it all work, but maybe it's not supposed to all work. Maybe we're supposed to tackle one at a time here. And I think if we open this, it's gonna solve a lot of the problems that we've already addressed in the community. If we keep belaboring it, it's gonna make it later and later. We won't get to it next year, the next year, and that would be a disappointment, I think, to the community. But one of the things I thought of is if we go forward with this plan, then we can maybe poll people about Richardson as that starts to come to fruition about, is this meeting your needs for lap lanes and outdoor aquatics? And what would you like to see the new aquatics facility? You know, what elements can we now incorporate that are lacking from this? And I think that might create an opportunity. There might be a lot of people in favor of an indoor lap lane facility there. There might be very little people in favor of that because they love the big outdoor aquatics facility you guys brought to us. So I think it'd be nice to give them this and then see how much of the need it meets. And then as we get to Richardson, poll the public on what would be the best way to kind of supplement what we already have. And I know it's, we're gonna build this great thing and it's only gonna be seasonal, but so are a lot of our other amenities, like the new park we just built, like the bike park, like the skate parks. Most of them are seasonal, and there's still huge blessings to this community to have. It's better than not at all. They'd rather have it seasonal than not have an outdoor pool at all. So that would just be I'd rather let's move forward. I love Mayor Pro Tem's shade structure suggestions. I think that always is beneficial, and more lawn is always nice too. But other than that, I think Port has really done a great job of navigating the different opinions and ideas, and so I think this is a great project, and I think we could do a lot with it. And maybe one thing we could consider is these lap lanes. If we do put in other lap lanes somewhere, maybe the lap lane side of the pool becomes more of a water slide side of the park or the pool area. I don't know if that could adjust at that time to be more recreational and less lap lane based, but that would be my suggestion is we move forward, make the couple tweaks we need, and then let's start planning Richardson for the additionals so that we don't wait too much longer.
If I could maybe piggyback on some of that and kind of bring it around. Just going back to kind of our long-term timeline and just kind of the community desires from our survey. Obviously trails, parks, open space, that kind of trumps everything. So I see expenditures there in the future, in the next decade. But right after that is leisure pool. Now, this I think fulfills most of those needs. I don't think this will absolutely fill all of our aquatic needs. I mean, you've got lap lanes at about half the desired amount as a leisure pool. I think people are really missing this idea of community that comes along with an outdoor pool. So I see this as a really positive intermediary step that achieves a lot of our aquatic needs right now. And I just feel like the aquatics at Richardson are just so far down the priority list. And we also I don't know if we know what that looks like necessarily. And just honestly reserving that space for just future aquatic uses is good enough for me, I guess, in the next decade. So I think, with the laundry list of things we want to do, ball fields, town park 2.0, land acquisitions, trails. I think we've got our plates full, but I feel like Arboretum and this project are really good intermediary steps that we really should think about.
Other thoughts? I agree. I don't want to keep that. I think you guys said it better than I. This is way better than I imagined, which was just a square to try and kind of have what Town Park had. And I think in this space, you guys, the consultants, staff, and Port, created something above what I thought was possible for that area. And I think it'll be packed, just like the rec center. And I think as we grow, we're gonna have to tackle that. But I don't know about putting it off, because one thing's for sure is that estimating saying something will come in 5 to 10 years may not be the case, and then in that case, we're just got nothing. And there might be a solution too, where we do go to the voters and say, hey, if you want to expedite Richardson, let's put it on the ballot. Or we can look at COPs, certainly are gonna have, like Administrator Kirk, we're gonna have, you spoke to this, but more commercial, and we could cover those costs. I guess it might be a problem of you said assets, I guess is that, I guess we had to leverage town hall for the rec center, so I don't know.
No, we actually leveraged the rec center for the rec center, but, so the way those COPs work at the rec center, the building itself is held in trust.
Okay, as the
We
equity,
own the underlying ground, but it's held in trust, and we pay a lease payment back to the trustees that then pay off the debt that was issued. If we fail to make that lease payment, the trustees can take over that building, lease it to somebody else. It could become Anytime Fitness or whatever, until the debt is paid off, and then the town would get it back. But as long as we continue to make our payments, it'll always be the town's.
and we could do something similar, we just have to leverage Richardson for Richardson or something?
Yeah, the problem
guess that's
with,
the
the problem
start.
with ball fields is that there's not enough value.
Oh.
You know, if they took back the ball fields, they can't lease those out. Now, I don't know that, I'm not an underwriter, so.
Yeah, I was getting a little ahead of myself, I was just
It's
curious.
possible, but I mean, you know, I think if the board wanted to explore financing of Richardson, I think there are opportunities.
Okay.
I don't know if we could do the entire thing, but we can certainly do a big chunk of it.
Did you say you could leverage the aquatics structure for the aquatic structure, push that in the timeline?
We've had some really high level conversations that maybe there may be enough, you know, it may make sense with like the aquatics facility, which is a little bit different in terms of revenue generation as a facility. Where like the ball fields are more of a community asset. There'll be some revenue generation there, but not enough to like, you know, pay for their use. But we just need to talk to an underwriter, you know, the same one that helped us with the rec center, or, you know, we have relationships with other underwriting firms too, just to kind of see what our opportunities are there. And I do believe, I'm not an expert in COPs, but I do believe we can use other assets, like town hall, for instance.
That's what Longmont did for their mall.
Yeah, so there are other creative solutions too.
Okay.
It's not to say that Richardson couldn't happen. It would be a big lift.
Yeah.
But I think we could do it. It just depends on, you know, we'd have to dive into the details of numbers.
I guess I was getting ahead of myself. I was just trying to tie it in. I was looking at 50 million. I remember when staff projected that initially. In 5 to 10 years, that could be much higher. And I'm just scared to further say something that might be out of control at that point, to the point where I think it would be fair to just ask voters. Otherwise, we're tying everything up into one park in particular. But again, I'll be long gone by that point. So I guess I'll end on, I think this is great. Either in intermediary or what, but yeah, to be able to get eight lanes in here, plus a diving board. And I love your ideas, so
Oh, I appreciate that.
tying that into the ag field, chicken coop, that's great. And I think having it outside is kind of nice too. So maybe there's something to be said about not having a roof and being in the sunshine.
Yeah, that was my, not to belabor the point, but that was my concern with a combo indoor-outdoor pool was as soon as you put a roof on it, it's no longer an outdoor pool. So you might as well just build an indoor pool because the retractable sides, especially in the environment that we live in, it's not gonna be the same thing. You're not sitting under the sun, you're not swimming in the sun. And so it either, I guess, my issue with this whole affair is if you want an indoor pool, just build an indoor pool. If you want an outdoor pool, then that is what it is. It seems like the half and half is kind of not either good decision to make, and especially in our climate in the winter.
Is there any thoughts about just so we don't have to say 9 months, just make it open an extra month or 2 weeks on each shoulder season? So we're not doing, what do we usually do, Memorial Day to Labor Day? Or that's what we did at Old Town Park?
Memorial Day to usually the first or second week, it got to be the first week of August with the Old Town Pool.
Any thoughts of expanding
Less than
that?
100 days, 90 some days, huh?
Is there any thoughts of, I mean, it's getting hotter, any thoughts of just put two
Is it? Is it getting
inside?
hotter?
Or is that a staffing issue?
The thought process is, yeah, they're very excited if this goes through, they're very excited to take it as their own, as they've done the rec center and done a really good job. They think that it being connected and closer, that they would be able to staff it better as one site
Okay.
in this case. And they think they can push a little bit more weeks, maybe a week on the front end, 2 or 3 more weeks on the other, because it's so close, and maybe, you know, winterizing it that would be that much quicker, being on the same site. That's what they believe, so.
Okay,
And from a staffing standpoint, you know, when we only had an outdoor seasonal pool, when school started, you lost the vast majority of the lifeguards, right? Now we have a year-round indoor pool, and so we have lifeguards 12 months out of the year. So it'll be a little easier to
Yeah.
deal with staffing for sure, because we have the indoor pool next door,
Yeah.
in order to extend that season.
I think it makes, yeah,
So we can try.
I think extending the season makes a lot of sense.
I think we certainly can.
It might be a
Sorry.
little cooler, but like days like today.
We can give it a try.
Sorry about that.
Quick question, what's the depth of the children's pool?
Good question, thanks, May.
Yeah, I was curious, I'm like, that could be anything.
Those are the depths, that was my last slide, in case somebody had a question about depths, if you're curious. Generally speaking right now, or I mean, not generally, but the way it's been designed in this concept is you said it is zero entry. I don't know if you can read them, but the zero entry on the right there, on the top one, on the right, and then all the way west, we're looking at like 3.6 is what they got it at, or somewhere 3.5 feet.
I think that's brilliant.
So if you answer,
This is,
and
yeah,
then it steps a
great.
little bit, you see 2 and you see 3, so hopefully that answers
Really
your
like
question.
the Simplicity actually, I think is perfect.
Okay.
I love that, and I love that it's zero entry on just the children's pool. Awesome.
Like a little wave machine. I think.
Well, they have bubblers.
Oh, do
Or
they- is that what those
that's
are?
what those
Bubblers?
things are on the east side, yeah.
Ooh,
Little
Yeah,
fake
it's-
starfish in it.
I know that's a thing.
So, yeah, I got to use my slide, thanks, good question.
Did anyone in the audience? You've seen it before, but maybe, do you want to speak to anything? Yes, yeah. Anyone in the audience is just you, Kelsey, Alex, or Lynn.
I was watching you guys.
Small town, we can say things by name, okay.
Lauren Roth,
You can go over there,
1735
just
Exeter.
later
Okay,
for
over
the
here.
microphone.
Okay. 1735 Exeter, Lauren Roth. So I'm the chair of the port committee. I want to say thank you to you guys for everything that we've done. We've worked really hard as the port committee and then with you guys in our work sessions and just trying to bring this all around. I would say our last port committee meeting when we had this design brought in front of us was probably one of the easiest meetings I've ever been to. So we've spent hours and hours and hours on these designs and looking at them and going through things. And I think once this design came out, and I'm hoping that you guys feel the same way, it sounds like it, that this really satisfies all the things that everybody was looking for. And I think that this is gonna be such a great way to get something that the town is really looking forward to. All along, we've talked about, there's people in town who will say, oh, the board's not gonna listen anyways, port's not gonna listen anyways, but I do feel like this is really going to be one of those moments where we can do something where the town is gonna feel like we listened and did what they wanted, and so I think this will be a great thing. I agree with the shade structures. That was something that was brought up at our port committee meeting too, to say, we need shade out there. It's tough because you don't wanna, we have wind here and it's in one of those spots where it can get pretty windy, but just having that shade is really important since we don't have all the big nice trees from Town Park. But other than that, I think that everything is, I think it's a really good design, and I think I agree with everybody that the indoor-outdoor piece was really just too hard to try to bring all of that together and try to find something that was reasonable. And down the road, hoping that the Richardson Park, the consensus from the port committee was hoping that Richardson Park stays with some sort of aquatics there as well, because maybe a decade from now, we're gonna be at a point where we're gonna need more outdoor facilities for the town. So, thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Okay. Bringing it back to the board here, it seems we're supportive. Any final comments here? Is that pretty straightforward to you? Seems like we're supportive. I guess it's only Mayor Pro Tem's suggestions on. Am I getting ahead of myself? It sounds like we're all supportive of Mayor Pro Tem's suggestions too. Did you bring up
Oh, I
the
appreciate
the infinity pool thing you were talking about?
Yeah, just kind of that waterfall lip on the west side, just explore it.
Exploring the cost on that and the shade. It seems like we're all agreeing on the shade structures, but maybe the other comments here in the chicken coop, some of that architectural stuff. Were you on that email?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a copy of that
A
too.
lot of this feedback, just we'll work through with BRS, with your direction, the next step. Yeah, all this will be rolled in, all your comments. Yeah, we'll vet them.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Very well done.
Mhm.
Very impressive.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you to Port too. Really, a lot of work. All right.
Do we have to move on that or just?
Oh, well, that's an update, but do we have to move?
Yeah, there's a
Oh,
suggested.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's a motion here.
Yeah, I'll do it. I
Please.
move that staff engage with BRS Architecture to complete full design and bid documents for future construction of the outdoor pool addition at the recreation center.
Second.
Okay, trustee Ayers, moved, that was a tie, real tie on that one, second one.
Go with your gut.
It's all good.
Okay, trustee Albrecht to get, I'm gonna get beat up either way. Trustee Albrecht, seconded that. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote? All right,
Trustee
here's a
Hardy.
tie.
Trustee Hardy.
Oh, yes, sorry, I couldn't hear over all the ruckus.
Trustee Ayers.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht.
Yes.
Trustee Kurtz. Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes, all right, thank you, and thanks for catching that, trustee Ayers. Next on our agenda is, it's Harvest West Annexation Petition Resolution of Substantial Compliance. This is to set a date for a, hearing for annexation. This is also a public hearing in itself.
No, it is not.
And we have a Community Development Director, Ann Johnson.
Hello, good evening. So this is not a new application for you. You did see it back in 2023. There's just some time lapse. And so we're bringing it back to you to ensure that there's still interest in annexing this project. Since we don't have a very full house, I'm just gonna let the record show that staff did present the process slides to the audience. And there we go. So now we're on to the adequacy review. Colorado Revised Statutes establishes criteria that has to be reviewed prior to accepting an annexation petition and setting the public hearing dates. Staff reviewed this application in 2023. We reviewed it again. The contiguity actually increased by double because of, you remember the Ludlow Sliver annexation about a year ago that closed a gap in contiguity along their north side. So now they're contiguous with the town by almost 50%, or just over 50%. So the location is 1 mile south of State Highway 56 or Mountain Avenue and approximately 1,300 feet west of South Berthoud Parkway. It is south of the Ludlow annexation, north of Riverside Farms in unincorporated Larimer County, and west of the Harvest subdivision. So again, on March 28th, 2023, you established that there was interest in annexing this property. If the town determines that the petition is acceptable and that you want to hear it, I believe the date that we've established is June 24th for a town trustees public hearing on that. So the agenda item tonight only sets the record that the petition was filed correctly, which staff has reviewed and the attorney reviewed in 2023 and nothing changed. So that the petition has been filed correctly. This isn't a public hearing, you're just setting the date for the public hearing if you all are still interested in annexation. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Trustees, thoughts, questions? Straightforward. All right, well, I have issues. You might have seen through the emails, but we put conditions on the previous property, the board did. I remember it pretty clearly. Trustee Hyman made that motion to have a connection on the previous development to Rose Farm. That's still outstanding. I think staff's working through what's going on there. Also, I don't know if we can hold the developer up to something that's already completed now. I think the time to do that was prior. But this is all resolved in an issue of Heron Point not having connections, Prairie Star not having a real connection to town. And just those folks, I think, feeling kind of not part of the community, and also the town's interest in pedestrian connections. And I think if we put that on just the town, that's a lot for the taxpayer, and also doesn't say much about us in our belief in having pedestrian connections, trying to get kids to school on bikes and walking. Chris and I recently had conversations with Prairie Star where folks were saying, I don't feel comfortable with my kids biking outside the community. I don't have kids myself, but I could only second what they said because it's just too dangerous. So I really believe there should be a trail there. I don't think there's any kind of malfeasance here at all. I think that just it didn't get transferred from the board over to planning commission and it's already been approved.
Mayor
what I
Karsbeck,
understand, yeah.
if I may, this has not been approved yet at all.
I'm sorry, the previous.
Oh,
phase.
previous,
I'm sorry,
okay.
that's what that condition was on, not on this one.
Yep, and we will have the opportunity to review the neighborhood master plan in June. There are trail connections planned, but we're not to talk about the merits of the application tonight. But I do want to assure you that the developer actually has provided trail connections along the west side and other trail connections in the, on the east side of the former Harvest North and South as well, that will be included as part of this development.
To Rose Farm, not just
Um,
internally, but to connect into town.
Well, it will connect along South Berthoud Parkway.
Ah.
Yep, so that you will see at your June 24th hearing. Tonight, we're just establishing.
I understand.
Yeah.
This is my thing of, is there really a community of interest, which I think is a very uphill battle in the town if you read any of the Facebook posts out there. So I was weighing into it, but that's really good information. Anything else? Any other thoughts, questions? All right, I don't know if it's appropriate to open up to the public, even though there's
It
plenty.
really is not. This is purely a question for the board on whether or not all the boxes have been checked for a petition and whether you want to set a public hearing.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing else, maybe I just want to explain that we have the developer in the room here. This community of interest always is a hang up for me because I really don't, I think it's tough. Is there an interest with the board? Maybe, is there interest with the community? That's a real tough thing here. I think as annexations go along here, it's just tough for me to get behind these things. But is there an interest to hear an annexation petition? I think is a difference. So I just want to clarify here, at least with my vote, I'm interested to hear you out. But is interested in an annexation itself, I just don't know yet. So that was it.
And that's perfectly appropriate because that's the purpose of the public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else, clerk, could we call a roll call vote on this, please? Nope, got to make a
Motion first.
motion first.
I'll move to approve Resolution 2025-08, a resolution of substantial compliance regarding a petition for annexation filed by HT Land Partners LLC and setting the matter for a public hearing on June 24th, 2025.
Is there a second? All right, Mayor Pro Tem Murphy has moved on this. Trustee Ayers has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Kurtz,
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
Trustee Ayers,
Yes.
Trustee Hardy,
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. Okay, thank you. June 24th. Number 6 is the public hearing amended chapter 30 regarding natural healing centers and natural medicine businesses. Back to you, Director Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Karsbeck and members of the Board of Trustees. So there are very minor changes that I'm going to present to you this evening that are different from the first reading. So the first one is that the map that you see here, I know it's at a very small scale, but that red area, I believe Trustee Albrecht expressed some concern. The map was a little misleading. That red area is the part of the Mountain Avenue Overlay District, the Downtown Character District, where natural healing centers cannot go. So we just wanted it clear that the yellow area is where the manufacturing, testing, production can go, except that tiny little northwestern portion that is encumbered by the blue, that is within a setback for a school or a daycare where they cannot go. That's for the production, manufacturing, and testing. And then the blue areas represent those buffers that the state has established for schools, daycares. And then the purple areas the purple areas that are not encumbered by the blue are areas where the healing centers can go. And that's the administration of the medicine. So that, I just wanted that to be clear, and hopefully that shows that they're not going to be allowed in the downtown.
Okay.
And so we talked about that last time, but I just wanted to bring the map back to you so you can see it actually is reflective of our discussion. And then the only other change is because at first reading, you determined that yes, you wanted to go forward with a second reading. This just shows on the land use table where this will be inserted. So that under the commercial, retail, or service uses, the natural medicine healing centers will be only allowed through the site plan process in the C1 and C2 zone district. However, we also say you have to look at the natural medicine healing center section of the code for the greater restrictions. It's just too hard to put it all in the table. And then the similar item under industrial land uses, and we just put everything in alphabetical order. The other natural medicine businesses, and again, referencing back to that section of the code for greater detail, site plan in the 2 industrial zone districts. That doesn't mean site plans in every industrial zone district, because again, in that section of the code, it references that very particular area. So those are the only changes. Just clarification on the map, where they're going to go, and the process in which we'll approve. And that's all we can control.
Very good, okay, all right, well, thank you, that red thing was important to me, that's good to know. So, and it can't go to 7th because that hits the school district, so we're calling it downtown 6th to 1st.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, and 6th to 1st, for clarity, is a specific zone identified in the Mountain Avenue overlay plan. So 6th to 1st, and then 150 feet from the center line is a defined boundary already existing in one of our plans. So that's kind of that Main Street corridor. That's why it's easy to reference. Otherwise, we'd have to identify probably some kind of other legal boundary description to grab a whole bunch of other areas. But that would cover Main Street from 1st to 6th. Because again, that's a defined area in our existing plans.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any way to zoom in on that map to more of the downtown between 287 and 1st?
It's between 1st Street and 6th, and I don't know if I can zoom on this. Oh wait, maybe I can. Let me see here. Maybe I can be a technological wizard.
Hey, good job.
There we go.
So I just want clarification, the purple, the dark purple
Uh-huh,
are potential locations.
correct.
But what's that and the difference between that and the industrial area? Why are,
Because the industrial area is only where production, cultivation, manufacturing, and testing can occur.
I see.
And so there are 2 uses. One is that industrial use, and then the other is where the medicine will be administered to a person. And that can occur in commercial, and that's in these purple areas. So there are 2 different uses, and then the blue just is outline, you just can't do anything in the blue or in that red. And we can only regulate time, place, which is what this map is, and manner. We cannot regulate anything else.
What is manner? How?
Manner like our, so is it going to be in which zone district? Are you going to require security cameras? Things like that.
Do you see manner as a conversation for tonight? Like security?
We've already covered that in the proposed code language, and there have been no changes to that at all.
All right,
I have a question.
yes, please, I was gonna say just questions, I think it's a public hearing, it is, okay. Thanks.
So the 1,000-foot setback from child care centers, are those like the oil and gas setbacks that are reciprocal? So if, for instance, something were to go in one of these random purple spots, does that preclude the future building of a child care center within that 1,000-foot bubble?
No,
That's a great question, and I don't
no,
think
the
it
answer is
does.
no,
Okay.
because these aren't restrictions on childcare centers.
So once something would go in, childcare centers can still go anywhere. It's just these are required to not be built within 1,000 feet. Okay.
So yes, I'm just,
First,
that's,
the chicken or the egg?
Other questions? Seeing none, this time I'll open it up to the public. in the audience? Okay, we have no one signed up. I'll bring it back to the board for deliberation. Let's just go down the row. Start off with Trustee Albright. How do you feel?
I appreciate seeing the red there for a downtown area. I'm still not comfortable with the purple that's along Mountain Avenue. I just think this should be business corridors. We shouldn't be focusing on anything medicinal. Obviously, there are already existing businesses that like dentist office and stuff, and I'm grateful to have them, but if we can control what comes in the future, I would like to say those types of things would not be on Mountain Avenue, so we have room for commercial and shopping districts. That's my only issue with this plan. And since we can't control where they go, that would be my one change, is that they not be on Mountain Avenue at all.
Trustee Ayers?
I understand Trustee Albrecht's concerns. I don't disagree with them, but I don't see it as a big of concern for me. Because they are the next block over from the strip, I guess. So that's the thing that doesn't concern me as much. But as far as, you know, the setbacks and the time and whatnot, I asked Chief last time about concerns, and it seemed like the person that was here kind of explained how the manner of care was given, and it's pretty regulated, so I don't necessarily have a concern about that. So I think that the plan looks good. I don't really have any concerns, especially if the setbacks are not reciprocal, just because some of these are in places that are probably or could possibly develop. I know over there at Farmstead, there's been a talk of a future possible school or daycare center or something like that. So that's why I was concerned about that. But it doesn't seem, I don't have any real issues with it.
Trustee Hardy?
Agree with about that. I think it's fine. I don't see any issue with it, and it seems like they've really put a lot of thought into this, more so than they did when we first approved marijuana. They've really kind of taken a much better approach, and I think they're doing that intentionally, just kind of because of the pushback. But I think they've really thought it out. The carriage that being taken is really good. I think it's going to be a lot different than our marijuana industry. I think it's going to be a little nicer and classier, if you can say classier. It's going to be more of a medical purpose than a recreational thing.
Trustee Kurtz?
Really no comments. I guess I have one clarification. So if I guess a therapeutic or medicinal office went in a purple area, that in and of itself creates a setback of like 1,000 feet, right? Where no additional offices could go in. So just kind of looking at that Mountain Avenue adjacent corridor, we would really be talking about no more than one facility. Is that
Right, so on the north and south, if somebody went, it's about 1/5 of a mile, that you could not have more than one facility.
okay? Yeah, so it would, if you put one in there, it would kind of cancel out most of the other area. Gotcha. No, I agree. I think that this is thoughtful and appreciate you all putting this together. I don't really have any additional comments.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I always appreciate the visuals, but I think this is certainly sufficiently restrictive. I appreciate the language. I think it's pretty ironclad. I'm supportive.
Likewise, I think this is more strict than we saw last time with the red on it. Trustee Albrecht, I don't think you're in any kind of void or vacuum on that. I'm sure there's other communities that feel that. I appreciate you bringing that up. Do you want the opportunity to amend the motion? See if you get a second to exclude downtown?
I have a draft motion for you if you wanted me to make it, and I want to check that 1,000-foot setback for you too. So if you wanted to make a motion, it would not, to amend the location for natural medicine centers to not be within the Mountain Avenue overlay district. And then let me check the.
But I thought, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I thought that's what the red was already. That is the overlay.
That's,
Part of it.
sorry, go ahead.
That's okay, that's the downtown part of the overlay. The overlay would go from a half mile west of 287 all the way to a mile east of I-25.
Thank you, sorry.
I'm just throwing that out there, just if you wanna hit the record, if you wanna do that.
I
and
would
then
be
if
happy
that
to.
passes, we'll go with it, and if that fails, we'll just do this original motion.
No, I do feel strongly enough about it.
Sure.
So I would move to approve ordinance 1353, an ordinance of the Board of Trustees adopting Town of Berthoud Natural Medicine Healing Centers and Natural Medicine Business Regulations as section 14 and chapter 30 of the Berthoud Municipal Code. But I would like to amend the location centers to not be in the Mountain Avenue overlay.
All right, thank you. Is there a second on that? amendment? Hearing no second, there is no motion. Is there a motion for the original?
Yeah, I'll make the motion. I move to approve ordinance 1353, an ordinance of the Board of Trustees adopting the Town of Berthoud Natural Medicine Healing Centers and Natural Medicine Businesses Regulations as section 14 and chapter 30 of the Berthoud Municipal Code.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Trustee Hardy has moved on the original motion. Trustee Kurtz has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Hardy,
Yes.
Trustee Ayers,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht,
Abstain.
Trustee Kurtz,
Yes.
Mayor Karspeck.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, and just to confirm while you're making your motion, yes, no, we can't have more than 2 in that 1,000-foot setback, so we're good.
More than one.
Two or more than
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, we can't have more than 1, yes, so there can't be 2 overlapping the 1,000 feet, sorry.
Yeah, so basically, one office or facility could go into that purple area,
Yes.
and then it would cancel out for us.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. That concludes our regular agenda tonight. We can just move right on into reports. Let's start off, let's start with Trustee Kurtz this time. We do Trustee Albrecht all the time.
Really, no reports except this will be my last meeting, as I mentioned at the prior meeting, and I just want to thank you all again for just being, I guess, great partners. It's been an honor to serve with each and every one of you, including our town staff, town administration, outside council. Yeah, talking with folks about my experience here, it's very true when I say it that I've received more than I believe I've given in my whole experience here at Berthoud and on the various commissions and as a trustee. So thank you again, and I hope this isn't goodbye, but just to see you later. We won't be too far. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, let's give you a round of applause. We'd all say individually, but maybe we just do it as a group. If we have any thoughts, but I
Just roast me.
yeah. Start out and get over that podium, but no, I just I only know you from the trustee side, not as a planning side, but I know you vast amount of experience on that aspect. But since you came to the board, your analytical approach blew my mind. So I like to think I'm analytical until I talk to you, and then you have a chart or a thought process for everything. And really, it was a big asset to the town. And others on the board that have that skill too. I just know I certainly don't. That's how emotional I can be until you're pointing things out, and it made going through a lot of these into bite-sized portions. And I think we're losing an incredible asset. And so sorry to see you go, but very happy for you and your family, and in my best of luck.
Thank you.
I hope you run for the council in Fort Collins. See you there.
I might take a small break, but
Okay. Wish for a birthday, but don't stop while you're at it. I just want to say my point of view.
I really appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you so much.
I wanted to say thank you too. I remember specifically our strategic planning session, and we were like going around this huge mountain with all these crazy ideas, and then all of a sudden you were like boop, 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 like all of our ideas like condensed into perfect bullet points. And so you've been very helpful on the board, and it's awesome having that feedback. So thanks for being here. It was tough. You were definitely meant to be here for that time, and I, wish the best for you and your family.
Yeah, same. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
No, I'd just like to say, serving with you on planning and on the board, I know how challenging it is to sometimes be that man in the arena and stuff, front your views in front of the public. But it's really been an honor serving with you, and I really appreciate everything you brought. So thank you.
Appreciate that input, Jim. No reports. All right, that's it. All right, cool. Trustee Hardy,
Nothing to report.
Trustee Ayers.
Yeah, I have a couple things. The Jaskowski property, there was a change of the agent from Open Lands, and so they've been kind of non-communicative the past couple weeks. However, there should be an update soon.
Thank you. Oh, did that agent get promoted by chance, or
I have
are they
no
gone?
idea.
If they're promoted, that might be
Yeah, I have no
good.
idea.
If they're gone, then we gotta start over.
The other thing was, from the information that we got from staff, it doesn't seem to be a start over. It just seems to be that the person that replaced them is taking some time to review some of the conversations. So I don't know what soon means, but that's the word that was used. So Arboretum update, it looks really nice. As you guys are thinking about this, one of the comments that some of the public made and some of the port committee made on it were there may be too many play areas for a relaxation open space. So as those designs start coming before the board, that's just something to keep in mind, because there is a lot of, it's natural play, they're not playgrounds, but the comment was made that this is supposed to be, or it seems like it should be a place for contemplation and walking. But if you have multiple different playgrounds spread around the trails, it might seem more like just kind of a large playground and less of a quiet space. It's just a main comment that was made.
We have a lot of playgrounds.
And then, what was the other report? Open market begins in Town Park on June 14th for the summer.
So is that farmer's market? It's called open market? What'd you call it?
I think they said open market, but yeah, farmers market.
I think just Berthoud Market.
Berthoud
Farmer's
market.
market. Do you know what side? Is it?
It's
Is
on
there
the
some?
west. It's on the west side in the grass.
Ah, okay. Last year, like last year. Is that, okay. There's just a little pushback on it not being on the mountainside, but that might have been a parking thing? Do you know why we moved it?
I think there was just
Down,
some,
you said?
there was just some desire to try and get people off of Mountain Avenue, just the pedestrian side of it.
Alright, just curious.
But there was just concern about people running around by the highway.
Okay. All right, thank you, Trustee. Trustee Albright.
One thing about the Arboretum, I don't know if I already said this, that I was thinking about was after we talked about the dark sky ordinance and the gentleman who presented talked about having designated, viewing areas. I think we should make sure to designate spots of that land to have
Great idea.
stargazing. Like, wouldn't that be the perfect spot
Yes.
in Berthoud? So I really think that'd be neat to have an open lawn or space where there's not obstruction of trees, so that you could get your telescopes out. And I forgot your quote, Will, that we were gonna put on a bumper sticker the couple of meetings ago. You said something about bring your telescope to Berthoud or
Oh, I
something. We need to coin that phrase. Definitely need to coin that. I just wanted to give kudos to Lemonade Day and the Chamber, because that is such a heartwarming small town thing to see all those lemonade stands out over the weekend and all the kids learning how to handle money. And I mean, they're getting creative. Like, we bought beef jerky at one of them and cookies, so they're going all out. Bet they make bank. So that was awesome. I also wanted to bring up the Youth Advisory Commission. They did an amazing job on their inaugural youth summit, first youth summit of Northern Colorado. And so this was a, kind of a pilot opportunity for them to invite all the regional youth advisory commissions from other cities and bring them together. And it really came from the idea that they had a lot of questions, like, how do you guys connect to your town councils? How do you do events in the community? How do you get your voice heard? And so the idea really came from that, of bringing them together with other established commissions so they could share ideas and get to know each other. And it was amazing. Like it was really youth-led, that all of the ideas were theirs on how the format was gonna work. They created like notebooks for everyone that attended and invited a great motivational speaker, and Will spoke and Trustee Wing spoke, and they did a great job. And then I got to be roped into their Go Noodle dance. If you're curious about Go Noodle, ask your children, or any kid age children apparently know how to do Go Noodle except us old people. And so I got to do that, and that was fun. But the whole thing was really brilliant because staff helped the students really lead out. And so they got so inspired. I think this is definitely going to keep going, and they'll probably hand the baton to another city that wants to take it up, but they'll still be the logistical partners in it to host it with them. And so Berthoud gets to really have that claim to fame and giving the torch to our youth. So that was an awesome
Can I
event.
ask a question on that?
Yes.
Were there any procedures or policies that came up that they might adopt?
No procedures. There was one comment that was really incredible that, I mean, I took away, and that was I think it was Longmont's commission, and they encouraged, they said, a lot of the kids that are involved tend to have involved parents in the community, and they said to go out of your way to find the kids that are on the fringe, that are maybe the quiet leaders, and get them to get involved and to spend that time. And I thought that was a really cool, ammunition for them to say, oh, who are those? How can we, as the youth, go out and try and bring in the fold some other kids from high school? And now the chair is graduating, and there's gonna be a lot of open seats. So we're gonna get to figure out recruitment in August. And so I think now that they have kind of a new format, they're gonna figure out some new policies, but really it's gonna be important that they find a way to channel those thoughts and bring them here more strategically, I think. And so there's still room for that to figure out those opportunities. But now they have bridges between those different cities. They can ask and email, how do you get your thoughts heard to town board? Or how do you get the town packet, more readily available to you? That kind of stuff, I think, is gonna be nice for them to have, because Loveland's a lot more established. And they're so big, they have subcommittees that do things in the community, their youth do. So we're baby steps, but we're in the right direction, I think. So that was a lot of fun. And then one other thing I just wanted to ask staff about is, and this was brought to my attention, my mom's, but then I was just I just figured the bathrooms were always just locked for just me. But every time we're at the park, the bathrooms are always locked, and so I didn't know if
Secret's
that
out,
was,
guys.
I don't know if that was just,
Just for you.
I know, I was like, oh, May's coming again. But I don't know if that was just there's seasonal dates that kind of align with something, but I don't know if there's another format, because there's so many nice days, even during winter, when you take your kids to the park. But then if you have as many kids as I do and you get stuck at the park and you're like, we need a bathroom, I guess everyone has to load back up and we have to go home. And so it just kind of, when the mom that was talking to me was sharing about her situation, I was like, yeah, I can relate to that too, that would be a challenge. So I don't know if there's a way to tackle that and have manpower to keep our bathrooms open so people use our downtown, and the Fickle Park one I think was locked last time I tried it too. And so we're using our downtown, we just sometimes need a restroom.
I believe all of those are what are called 3-season restrooms, so they're not insulated or heated, and so they have to be winterized. I agree completely. This is something we've talked about with park staff. I believe all of our restrooms should be 4-season, because there's a lot of nice days in January and December when folks want to get outside. I'll be honest, I thought our restroom building at Town Park was going to be 4-season, and I don't believe that it is. I don't know that was an intentional miss. I think it's very common for park restrooms to be 3-season in Colorado. But I hear what you're saying completely. So to the extent that we can make those adjustments, we will. It would require some heating and insulation in any structures that are not designed that way, because otherwise we'll have freezing pipes and all kinds of stuff. So
it'd be nice to know, what the cost, if that's super cost prohibitive, because if it's not, I think that'd be good, because we're really trying to encourage people to be out in downtown, using the parks and walking around, and it'd be a bummer if they stop going just because they're like, well, there's no facilities, so, and we have our kids, so there's no way we're going out
It is hard when you're at the park with kids, you know, and they need to go to the restroom, there's nowhere to go. It's,
What about bringing in a porta potty just for the fourth season?
we've talked about that. Porta potties in January are also a problem. So that's, you know, those aren't a great, so they're great for shoulder seasons where it's like, hey, we could still get a cold freeze, but it's probably not gonna you know, a deep freeze, but it's probably not gonna happen for more than a day or two, you know. We all know we'll get a couple of weeks of like, you know, sub-freezing temperatures in January or February. You don't have to worry about that so much in late March and April. You might get you might get a couple days where it's freezing, but you're not gonna get weeks on end of.
Well, we just used to keep porta potties up all year round.
Yeah, I mean, it can be done.
Yeah, I think we stopped because it was ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah, ideally, we would just invest some money to try to bring those restrooms up to 4 season where we can.
So, okay, I thought this was like a homeless thing. So this is just a comfort of going to, let's just say it's gonna be uncomfortable in the winter and leave it up to people to use.
No, it's not that it's gonna be uncomfortable, it's that our pipes will freeze, yeah.
Thank you, okay.
Yeah.
I got you, all right.
Yeah, I'm not so worried about whether or not it's cold.
Yeah.
Although certainly it's nice if it's at least livable in there,
Yeah, right.
you know,
Goes hand in hand, if the pipes are comfortable, you're ready to go.
that's hopefully the case, yeah.
I see, okay.
Certainly just above freezing anyways, that's the ideal.
Well, if we could, look into that, I think that would, I think that'd be good.
Thank you, I appreciate that, and we will.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem.
Just wanted to thank all the kids that got out with their parents for Lemonade Day. We had a lot of them set up at the rec centers, and I had a few of those up and stuff. Beyond that, heard that the House Bill 25-1272, which was the construction defects, passed yesterday, so that was good. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up was if you had any updates, Administrator Kirk, I'd be happy to hear where we're at on kind of everything. But that's all I've got.
I just want to start over with Attorney Smith. Thank you for keeping me in line tonight. I was gonna get a little close to the end, edge. I was flirting a little bit, so thank you for reeling me in. Alex is a great developer, so I was just personally concerned about that trail, but he's a good guy. So thank you for keeping me on track there. Yeah, I was surprised and happy to see Lemonade Day grew so much. It was over at the rec center. I was over there and I saw some kids in booths over at the actual intramural field. So
It was very helpful after soccer.
yeah,
so.
that's awesome. Shout out to Trustee Albrecht. The youth advisory that annual summit was just blew me away. So you're thanking the kids and staff, and I also joined you on that. But I really wanted to thank you, and it's just awesome to go into just from. I put a lot of work into this, but just the work you guys do. So, you know, going into Port, just seeing the Arbor Day stuff and just each individual committee, and Yak was just incredible. So I know you're a big part in the strategy there of kind of bringing it up to a more modern time here of their getting away from events and more into kind of other leadership opportunities. And it was just really cool to see other communities show up for that. So. And to hear from them all, and frankly, from what I was in a different sitting with the Loveland group, but I think Berthoud was kind of ahead in some areas too. And some of them were fighting, trying to having attendance issues too, but they're also much bigger. So it was kind of cool to see that, you know, we're, at least for our size, there's a lot of interest. One thing I just kind of took away too is it sounds like there is some youth advisory interest, but trying to get them to the DC conference, the National League of Cities. So I don't know, one day I think that'd be great, so they could go with the other kids and see all that. But yeah, I just want to thank you. That was just really impressive. So you were thanking me for being there, but I secretly wanted to say there's nowhere else I'd rather be. That was just, it was awesome. So
Those kids are fun, right?
yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was fun seeing you do the noodle too. You're better than you say you are.
That was better than speaking. I appreciated dancing more than speaking. It was
It was overall a very awesome night. Did we have? I don't know. If we had Arbor Day between now and then, but just thank you for Arbor Day too. That was just really cool.
I'm happy we were able to show up. I was out of town.
Yeah, May was there. Carl was there too.
No.
I think we had a meeting in between, so I don't know if I'm thinking twice, but
It was the studies. It was
Oh.
the,
awesome Arbor Day. So, in my opinion, one of the best in my memory. So cool to have multiple trees, to have Pioneer. I don't know why Paul was worried about attendance in the beginning, and then everyone just flooded in. Carl brought a dog, so it was awesome. So thank you. really cool, just the activity in the community, in the committees. Um, Along those lines, I can't remember if I brought this up too, but I did not go to the MPO meeting to attend the dark sky presentation at the library. I was actually worried about low attendance there too. I just happened to see it in an email, but the room was packed. So community interest is very high in that. The dark sky committee is well underway. And the presentation on the library was on lighting effect on birds. And it was a real eye opener to me just to see how much even just sky glow affects bird migration, and showed some apps for birders in the area and the amount of birders in Berthoud. So when they opened up the app where you can kind of document birds in the area, Berthoud had all these GPS points in there. So there's a lot of birders in the community and are interested, and there was a lot of physical proof that sky glow definitely affects bird migration and a lot of bird death due to it. So it made me very comfortable in the board's direction and the community direction to pursue this. That's all I have. So thank you. Turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Mayor Carspec.
Oh, I'm sorry. Before I interrupt you one more time,
That's okay.
just an update. So Chief, I talked to the chamber again, gave them the offer that we extended the offer again, that the town would pay if they wanted to extend the parade. Apparently from the sheriff, even if we wanted to extend the parade, there's just not the staffing available. I heard that today, so I just want to clarify.
Yeah, so looking at the numbers, with the condensed parade route that we currently have planned, we need 20 vehicles between town staff and law enforcement vehicles to do the vehicle intercept plan. If we continue the parade route up to its previous location past the retirement home, we need another 6 vehicles to get that done. I have control over 7 vehicles for that day. I have to borrow 3 additional vehicles. If we wanted to post for overtime to get those 6 additional vehicles, I don't know if I can fill them we could post for it, but there's no guarantee those will fill. They're not forced overtime positions. They'll only be taken if someone is available and wants to take them. And that would be at a cost of, I think, $85 per hour, and with a 4-hour minimum for an off-duty deputy to work.
Okay.
So, we're also competing with an event in Wellington for staffing. They moved their Brewfest to the 7th as well. So we're competing with that. I don't think so far we have any requests from Fort Collins to assist with them, but they have Taste of Fort Collins going on at the same time as well. So we're stretched fairly thin, and in order to maintain safety of the parade route, sticking with the condensed route is probably the way to go without being able to cover those for sure.
Any interest in state patrol? Or if that's even possible,
I don't know what their overtime situation is, whether they would have people come in and staff it. I don't know. So at this point, unless there's some other options available, I don't know how we'll staff that to be able to make sure it's safe. Within the last 3 weeks, there's been additional incursions into public events. I think it was the 27th of April. So I had it written down here. 27th of April in Vancouver, Canada. There was a street festival, 11 people dead, 20 people injured. Montgomery County on April 30th. Thankfully, they stopped the person before they hit anybody, but a driver drove onto a 10K race route and was intercepted by police prior to her injury or killing anybody. January 1st, New Orleans, Louisiana, during the New Year's Day celebration, 14 dead, 57 injured. Waukesha, Wisconsin, their Christmas parade, similar event, a little bit larger town, 71,000 population, 6 dead, 62 injured on their parade route. So those are the type of things we're trying to prevent. So I think sticking with the current plan with a condensed size is to be able to make sure we ensure the safety of our public. I think that's our best route that's currently.
Charter a shuttle to bring the retirement home.
So the chamber's working out, the chamber has worked out a virtual, but they can watch it virtually. That's a chamber compromise right now.
We do have town staff and vehicles, I believe, lined up to help support with some of those closures, but with the, with the length of the parade, the number of vehicles and staff members, it's pretty tough for us to get it all covered.
Well, I know you're doing your best. I have some thoughts on this, but you're probably not the right one to field it too. So thank you for.
Yeah.
Any thought in the future of getting more barriers so these I mean, I'm just killing me that it's probably gonna kill homecoming parade too, in reality of.
Yeah, we need to talk about this,
Yeah.
I think, because this is one of the key components of living in Berthoud, and so I totally respect the safety measures and we need to address it, so my mind goes to what you're like saying, Will, is we need to find some long-term solutions because we can't kill our parades. That's critical for people that live here, I feel like.
So I can tell you that the Meridian defense barriers that the sheriff's office and some other local agencies have invested in, they're extremely expensive, long lasting, but expensive. Each individual barrier is $7,000 a piece, and you have to have multiple of them to go across the road. I can tell you that the sheriff's office, partially through some grant funding, has spent over $150,000 on them so far, and with additional purchases probably forthcoming, but it's a huge investment. I'm not sure if the town has the ability or the desire to do so, but that is something that's available. There are some other options that we could discuss at different points.
Maze, farm equipment thing, you can't beat that. You better than Meridian barriers,
Just
Bill
throw
Marco
some
on a
tractors
combine.
until we could figure it out, yeah. Go through one of those, but I do think investing in barriers needs to be part of our plan, because if that's the way things are going, we need to be strategically investing in them until we have a sufficient amount, but
Yeah.
this is too critical.
Again, you're doing your best with 2 months' notice. Chamber, I talked to the president earlier today, the president of the parade, I forgot her name, Jen, very supportive of you, so I know you're doing everything you can.
I had a quick question. Have you guys discussed anything like retractable bollards for use in any of the towns or talked to any other communities that have kind of implemented those?
So I can tell you that they are using some sort of, they're not retractable, but they're
Yeah.
removable bollards that they've
Okay.
placed in front of the ranch, in front of the Blue Arena.
Hmm.
They have some that you can remove so you can bring vehicles in and out. But those do come at a price, are significantly expensive and may be cost prohibitive to place them across every intersection throughout town that their parade's gonna go on. So
Sure.
I don't know if that's a good option or not.
Okay.
While we're at an update, the parade was moved from 9 to 10.
They did concede to go back to 10. The condensed parade route, so.
And well, it extended a little bit, so is it starting again on Second, right? So we got an extra block.
Yeah, we moved the lineup back to Second there was some issues with the pancake breakfast that was gonna create a problem for the lineup on Third. So the idea of moving it from Second to Third Street was to avoid the railroad interruptions or possible railroad interruptions, so.
Yeah.
Cause the railroad won't tell us when a train's coming through, so.
It's always terrifying, every single year.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to, thank you. Back to staff.
Yeah, thank you, and I'll just add my appreciation to Trustee Kurtz and the service that you provided. I've certainly enjoyed working with you and your level-headed analytical approach. Like everybody talked about, very much appreciate you and your willingness to serve the town, so thank you. So hopefully you all noticed, I assume that you all did, that we left the lights up on the light poles
Yes.
after
Thank you for bringing
Christmas.
this
We
up.
thought those were fun, and they add a little charm. Our intention is to take them down when we put the American flags up, so that's coming up the next couple weeks. And then they'll go back up again when we do Christmas lights next year, but that's our plan currently. The Old Streets building at Second and Welch is starting to fall down, literally. So we delayed the demolition of that building previously, not really knowing what we were gonna do, if anything, but knowing that it was in bad shape at the time. A portion of the wall has started to fall down, so if you've noticed, we've kind of roped and coned that area off to try and keep, because it's not a secure site, there's no fencing or anything, so just to try to keep people away from it. A portion of the north wall is starting to fall down. So we need to very quickly make a decision about whether or not we're gonna move forward with demolition and, or whether or not we wanna try to invest the money to preserve that building. I know that's a tough decision to make on a very short notice. We wanna come back to you in the next couple of meetings at the absolute latest to get some direction, feedback from you about how you guys want to proceed with that. But just so you know, that's why it's coned off, and it is chunks of brick are starting to fall down, so it's concerning.
If that's urgent, should we be taking more urgent action?
I think we're,
That'd be dangerous
I'll-
for people.
I think I don't want to get ahead, but I think it'd be good to, if it's a life safety thing.
Yeah.
I was one of the ones that wanted to save it, but
Same.
if it's a life safety, in fact, I think it was just you and I.
Yeah.
wanted to save it.
This was our
It
dumb
might make
idea.
sense for it to go.
I think it makes sense for it to go also.
I
The
don't
inside
think
of the
we brought
building
back
is
the
not nice. It's not, we actually did talk to Andrew at the Historical Society. We asked him to do some research. We couldn't find any real kind of historical value to that building. It is older, but it's not like 100 years old,
Right.
you know, and there's no kind of clear history tied to it, and it's in such bad shape. It's been kind of added on to weirdly, you know, it's an old brick building with a couple garage doors with a weird kind of shed building attached to it. It's just, there's not a lot of great value to it. So, you know, we can also just prepare a demolition quote and bring that to you guys to approve.
I think it's time.
Oh, it's time. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
If it's a safety
We can just
hazard,
eulogize it.
it's
I'll be there and
easier,
cry,
right?
tear up. But no, it's totally. I agree. It's time for it to go.
Maybe if another building
Maybe-
goes up there, we
maybe
can
they'll
have
save
someone
you some
put a
bricks.
mural.
Yeah, save us some bricks.
Yeah,
I think really probably the big thing is putting out a post because everybody wants to use it for some kind of interim business or everyone's got an idea. for
Well,
a
and I
shelter
think
there, but-
everybody that has never been into it. So it, you know, it was used as the streets building for a while, and it, you know, it stinks like old motor oil, and yeah, it's just not a nice. It's not a nice building. Probably could be if we invest enough money into it, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
we need
If
to
it's,
put
I don't
that
know if it's
money
worth.
in.
I don't know if it's worth that investment. Yeah.
It's the opposite of a ribbon cutting.
Yeah, that's weird. Ideology.
We'll just tie a ribbon. We'll tie the ribbon back around it before we
Yeah.
demolish it.
Jenga, at least take a brick out.
Just have to find a way to.
Have a large community Jenga event. That's funny.
What happens
Oh.
if you-
First, we can put all the equipment we don't want inside of it. And then we can call Sursa and see if they'll pick up the tab.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I like that idea. Sursa is the one that recommended we tear it down originally as a side note. We, staff met with, BATS representatives as a follow-up to our study session last week, and we're meeting with them again on Thursday to kind of talk about possibilities. They walked us through their scheduling software and kind of how do they utilize it. This is a little different than I understood. I think there's some unique challenges. I think that they also identified as we talked about how we could integrate our two services into their software, but it was a good meeting. I think
So you're right.
this week will be another good one. Well, I don't know if I was right, but I think,
You're saying you're right. You're saying it'll take longer than we think, and you're right.
and you know, I think the way they use it is different than what I thought they did. So in that way, we learned about their software, and I think there is some potential value to it.
Yeah.
But how we integrate our two services, even on their side, you know, it's like it's almost easier for us to just buy our own software license than to try and put it into theirs, because there's a lot of concerns about, you know, they collect medical information and other things that they have, you know, we have very, very strict access to. Then we do kind of similar things, and how do we give each other access to the software, but without merging data? But if we can't merge data, then there's not a lot of value in us being in the same system. So anyway, we're going to try to work through all that on Thursday. I think there's still some good opportunity there. On May 22nd, just as a reminder, not this Thursday, but next Thursday, the town of Berthoud is hosting the Colorado Municipal League district meetings. So we sent you some emails about that. We'd love to have you all be there if you can. The CML district meeting will be held at the TPC Colorado Clubhouse. Starts at 5 with a social hour, and then the meeting begins at 6. So they do those district meetings all over the state, and other agency representatives come. I think we last count had about 45 people registered. Is that right? 50 from, you know, surrounding municipalities and other governmental entities. So that'll be a good opportunity to meet some of those folks too, if you have time next Thursday night. Let's see. Mayor Karspek mentioned the Dark Sky Committee. They did have a good meeting a couple weeks ago, and they did an initial inventory of the lighting at the rec center. I don't think they got all the way through the rec center. It's a lot of lights out there. But it was exciting to see that committee get formed. I think Mayor Karspek asked me, had the committee been formed? And I said, I don't think so. And I was wrong. It had been. I just hadn't got that information back from Brian, so that was great. One of the emails that came up that I said we'd talk about tonight, the trees on County Road 10E on the south side of the first phases of Hammond Farm.
Thank you.
The Mayor Karspek brought up these dead trees many years ago. We went back and forth with them over the last couple of years once we finally kind of got really closely engaged with them. Their big argument was that they believed that the town had not properly inspected the trees, that they were not installed properly. There was a lot of argument about that. I actually believe strongly that that was not why those trees died. But
We all second
we
that
also
because every
have-
other one's fine. There's something with that particular development.
and they extended on
And to
beyond the
I just wanna
warranty.
clarify,
They lived beyond the warranty period.
I don't want you to anyone to think that I was on you about 10E for years. I was talking about the ones at Bertha Parker, which you
Yeah.
handled.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I wasn't offended by it. But we did work out a deal with them where we provided the trees and they planted them all with an agreement to maintain them. The challenge is that our code doesn't require them to replace the trees. It requires them to get a permit if they replace the trees in the right of way, and it does say they're the responsible party to replace trees, but it doesn't require them to do so. Is the way our code's written. And I don't know if Attorney Smith remembers this or not, I may be misremembering this, but I don't know that we have the statutory ability to force them to replace the trees in the right of way. We talked about, like sidewalks, we can force the adjacent property owner to repair and replace sidewalks, and I think there's been, our code's kind of clear about that, and there's been some, I think there's case law about that that's been well tested. I don't know that there's been a lot of case law about forcing the replacement of right-of-way trees.
There's none.
There is none.
And of course, it's not just, and part of the reason is because it's more complicated than just putting a tree in the ground.
Mhm.
And they have to be irrigated and taken care of. That's where it gets beyond what the law would permit.
Even on a community parkway, maybe a little different in front of a house, but even on a community parkway, we can't force a metro to upkeep their infrastructure. That's pretty bad.
And what's interesting is we do have code language now in our code that says you are obligated to maintain any landscaping that was approved as part of a site plan or development review application. I don't remember the exact wording, but Ann's nodding. I think I'm getting that mostly right. That's something we added recently, just in the last year.
That's what I thought. So this, because this is before that, this doesn't cover it.
And that is a requirement of service plans as well, and our new service plan policy, but this development would have been before all of those. Now, I think we need to talk about, can we impose that on existing landscaping that was installed and removed 10 years ago? Well, not 10 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. But we'll have to try to engage in some enforcement activity there, or just hopefully get the HOA. When we worked out a deal on Berthoud Parkway, they were committed to replacing the dead trees that they had cut down on 10E. They just said, we can't do it all in 1 year. And so we're gonna we can afford to install the trees this year. And if we can wait a couple years, then we can afford to install, some additional trees. Their Metro District Board of Homeowners at the time felt like that was important to them too. So we just need to engage with the Metro District, which we have not done since your emails, but we certainly will. I just wanted to give you an update there.
Thank you. Maybe the tree committee could weigh in on. So they're before our requirements. Yeah, maybe there is some town incentive. I don't know, maybe the board doesn't feel like this. I think it's particularly important because the trails go by there too. So that's going to be a real hot area. Okay, thank you.
And I think, the ideal situation is at a minimum that the trees within the right of way get replaced. And they have a lot of dead landscaping or dead trees that were within their landscaped areas or open space areas that were removed. And those, I think we'd have an even harder time requiring replacement of, but I think, especially along the right of way adjacent to the trail. That's something we can certainly push on. Let's see. Sorry, I had one more update for you. Oh, I don't think we had a meeting since then, other than the study session. I think you all know, but we are the proud new owners of the ugliest building in downtown. So we did close on the Sunoco building at the end of April, and we have worked out a letter of intent with H&S. I expect to have that back early next week, and then we can start on a contract that you guys would have to ultimately approve, but that will come back to you once we've gotten all that worked out for your final approval. We do intend to begin work on that design in parallel with that whole process, so we can get moving on getting that building redeveloped and getting that site improved. There's a lot of excitement about it. Every time we talk about it in a meeting or, with the public, folks are really excited to see that become a better asset for downtown. Bigger public parking areas, public parking areas entirely, there are none there now. Improved facade, new uses. I think there's gonna be some excitement there.
What's the status of the renter?
So we've been working with PTA Plastics. They've been great. They are very open to moving early. Their lease does not terminate currently for several more years. They're totally open to moving. We thought we had a good spot for them located on Clayton Place, and the town tried to help facilitate that. The lease rate that was being asked by the building owner there on Clayton Place was significantly beyond what they were willing to cover, and much more than they're paying now. They're still totally open to working with us. They're looking at their options. We're trying to find some additional options for them as well. I'm hopeful that they'll still be able to move out early, and they totally get it. It's not an ideal location for them anyway, but it works, and from a financial perspective. But they're a great company, great people, and I'm hopeful we'll find a solution. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Anything?
Well, I would like to wish farewell to Trustee Kurtz, and it has been a pleasure working with you, absolutely. And just as a follow-up, with help from Clerk Zamora, I do want to just remind the board that the vacancy needs to be filled in 60 days. So just keep that on here.
This seat is cursed. Lonnie, Jeff.
The drummer
Yeah.
or something.
Would it be okay to decide how we do that tonight? Independent of like a special agenda item? Because I think, I will suggest to you, I think what we did the last time we had a vacancy is that we opened it up only to our committee and commission members first. I think that was the case. If we don't get committee or commission members who are already volunteering for the town in some capacity, then we could open up to the public, or we can just open it to the public from the get-go. But in either case, we'd like to post that vacancy sooner than later, just so we can get that process rolling. So we're not bumping up against any 60-day deadlines.
If I recall, the last time, I believe we opened it up to the committee members as well as the previous election runners.
I think that's true, yeah. And that was very close after the last election.
And I know it was closer, so the previous election runners may totally not be interested, but I did speak to one of them actually randomly, and he said he would be.
Okay.
So I think that could be, helpful to have as many people throw their name in as we can. And the hard thing about, I was thinking about this too, when we ask our commission members to throw their names in, we vacate their seat from there, and so it's kind of a catch-22 is we're losing that important person in that role, but it is nice to have them here too. So I don't know if there's a better way that without running a full election, but at least it seems more fair that they're existing involved members. So I guess that'd be my recommendations. We open it to committees and then the previous election.
Also candidates, okay. I was thinking, the last time, like Administrator Kirk said, it was pretty close to the actual election. I guess I see value in it. What do you guys, any other thoughts on this?
Just committee members?
Do you think just committee members? Just the anything?
And then the public, which would include past.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have thoughts either way. The only concern I have is precedent, but I guess that is case by case basis. It doesn't have to be necessarily precedent to do it one way or the other. That would be my only push for opening it to committee members and previous candidates. But it was so close to the last election that it just made sense at that moment. So if there's no legal reason to do it one way or another, then I don't really have a comment either way.
Any thoughts?
I guess I would lean towards starting with committees first, I guess, and then opening it up.
Well, and I actually would lean that way too, because the election was so long ago. The person that expressed interest was Aaron, and the reason why that piques my interest is because he's been here for every single meeting, so he could jump in and hit the ground running, and so that's why I like the idea of keeping it open to someone like him, because he would have wherewithal and have, respect for how much this board has done to build rapport with the community and each other, and so that makes me think I would just recommend him. If we could recommend him tonight and fill the seat with him, I'd say go for it, because he's probably interested.
He and Lynn are the.
Exactly. I mean, I would throw
Satellite
you in that
trustee.
too.
They're
But
the
that-
audience committee.
That's my main reason for maybe keeping that open to all candidates, to make it fair.
All right,
Or I would just recommend Aaron and,
call it May.
yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
No stress.
Well, we're kind of tied here. We have trustee, I think I put a name on it, man. That's tough. I don't want to exclude Aaron, but I was just thinking we'd just keep it to just committees, but,
Have them get on the committee real quick.
It'd also be great to slide in and fill a spot in a committee potentially. So I mean, you guys could look at it a lot of different ways.
well, I guess we're tied here. I don't know if we need to poll this or not.
Yeah, and you guys don't have to decide
Bring it
tonight.
back to the next meeting.
Yeah, and if you guys want to digest it, we can always bring it back to the next meeting too.
Is that cool?
Kind of think we should decide.
Okay.
Get this thing moving.
All right,
Let's do
so-
committees.
Let's do a poll, because there's different feelings here. So if you're in favor of adding committees plus candidates from the previous election, raise your hand. So let's go, okay, I think that decides it. So I think we're gonna do just committees then.
We'll open it up to committees and commissions. We'll do a short turnaround time. We'll ask anybody that's interested to kind of submit their interest. Within I don't know, what do you think, couple weeks? Couple weeks, and then that way we can get that back in front of you, probably at the first meeting in June. You guys can decide how you want to handle that.
Great. Clerk, is there we're good on committees, right? No interviews or anything?
No.
Okay, cool.
And then how long will that seat be? Would it be from the time that we appoint to
The next election.
the next election? Okay, that's what I thought.
All right.
Short season.
It would be short.
Anything else? All right, thank you, everyone. I'm gonna go ahead and end the meeting. Have a great night.